Hey, Zanni. So
Hi.
nice to have you here today. I'm really looking forward to hearing about some of the work that you're doing and all the new cool initiatives that you have going on. So, if
Yeah.
you could please introduce yourself and tell us what kind of work you're focused on right now. You can include your role, organization, and some of the work that is giving you energy these days.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole. I love talking to anyone in Hive, but especially you and Tasha. It's always fun and exciting to share what I'm working on. So, my organization is a consultancy, and I work, it's called Double Loop Consulting, and I work with nonprofit teams ranging in sizes, but I really like to help support organizations learn how to incorporate psychological safety into their daily operations. So we utilize team coaching and take everybody's information that they are sharing or maybe don't feel safe to share at work. Sort of when you feel those friction and tension rise, it's a good time to reach out and figure out how you can use the Fearless Organization Scan to create a more psychologically safe workplace, which I think helps eliminate burnout and really gets to some of the core issues that we're seeing right now in the sector, and sort of helps you respond to those a little bit better.
That is super interesting, and I
Mm.
think we're definitely the sector is rampant with burnout, and I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people talking about burnout, but not actually coming with solutions on how to address it. So super
Yeah.
curious about that work. I'm curious. So
Yeah.
what drew you into this? I'm assuming what we just said, but like
Yeah.
what specifically?
Specifically, so I started my consultancy doing a lot of operations work, lots of people in operations support. And what I noticed in any engagement I was going into, having conversations about the business requirements or learning more about each of the organizations, even though they had a project or a process they maybe wanted updated, there was a lot of sort of the people side of things that ended up being really some of the core issues that were driving the desire for a change either in a tool or a process, but it didn't really always um, help support the background issues, the communication breakdowns, or realizing when one side of the organization wasn't talking to the other.
Mhm.
And so I'm always drawn to people and supporting people and helping people. And even though I love operations and really understanding things at a systems level, what I love to dive in on is how to support the people fix the system. And that creates tension usually. There's a lot of tension in that kind of work.
Mhm.
And I find that a lot of times we're approaching that at an individual level. So we're doing our own self reflection and creating our own awareness within ourselves about, our boundaries or how to realize what we have control over. But it also means that you create awareness for the individual within a system that is broken. And so, what I wanted to help support organizations through is fixing the system, less from a tool and process level and more from where is it in our communication, or how come we stopped having team meetings, or whatever it is. Those There's really little tweaks you can make, but sometimes you don't understand what's happening at that system
Yeah.
level without having someone create space to have the conversation about it.
Well, so often we're in the weeds and we don't even
Yeah.
it's very rare that we have the opportunity to actually take the time to see what's working. We all know it's important, but
Mhm.
getting the time to carve out that specific focused time to do that is so challenging some days. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, like that I feel would support everyone across the organization. So would like
Mhm.
leadership have to reach out to you? Like if as an individual, how would I as a
Yeah.
entry level position feel like I don't feel psychologically safe at my workplace? Like what types of supports? would you recommend for somebody in like one of those entry level positions or even like mid level positions where they don't have the power necessarily to say, like, we need this? And I don't feel safe saying this.
Yeah, I do think it does. There is a lot of personal responsibility that comes with some of this work. So you do have to have a level of awareness going into seeking out having someone like me facilitate these conversations, because it is there is potential there for it to be uncomfortable or the first time anyone's hearing that something is going wrong. And so there is a level of awareness that people have to have at the leadership level to make this actually an effort that works. What I'm really excited about, though, and what I'm working on is with another nonprofit Hive partner, Joanna Lund Pops. She does one-to-one coaching, and I do team coaching. And together we're coming together and creating packages of team coaching that incorporates both, so that it basically moves the whole organization from awareness at the individual level
Mhm.
to this sort of systemic culture change, so that people are not doing just their individual coaching or working on their personal boundaries and goals and coming back to a system that is existing the way that it's always existed. And so when you have both of those together, and we're really looking to support teams that are frontline workers
Cool.
or teams that are individual, have a group of individual contributors and middle managers. Because I think a lot of times we also focus our coaching support on executive leadership. And when you have, and that's amazing, and we should still continue to do that. But I think that the opportunity to offer this to everyone can really create a massive amount of, like, really leveling the playing field for everyone in the organization and making
Yeah.
the people feel seen and heard and appreciated as well.
For sure. I've been having conversations lately just about like professional development and how it's
Yeah.
often directed towards that senior leadership and entry level staff rarely get it. But that's a whole
Yeah.
other conversation. We
Yeah. And I value training so much. And what I find really interesting about team coaching is that it's a yes and type of
Mhm.
professional development, where training is amazing for learning about something and taking a deep dive and knowing what information, like knowing where to start. And then team coaching is really about how are we having a different conversation with each other than we normally are.
It's
And
fair.
creating a space for that to happen. Because I think training kind of assumes people are going to take their learning back to a team. But I know, I mean, just from personal experience, say you're like going to a conference and you're jazzed up about all the things you just learned. You're like, oh my God, that was amazing. I can't wait to bring this back to my team. And you come back and you share it in your team meeting day one. You're like, look what I learned. But then actually, like, getting anyone to be on that same level of excitement with you doesn't always happen. It
Mhm.
really requires effort.
Yeah, it
And a
does.
lot of times we don't have the space to make time for the effort. And so that's what team coaching can help support. So that's why I'm excited to work with Joanna, so that we get both. Everyone's excited about their own trajectory, but
Yeah.
then the team comes together to really make it happen and make differences in how they work together happen.
I'm excited to hear updates on that for sure.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a really cool initiative. So
yeah.
I'm curious then. So what's one
Mhm.
challenge or shift that you're seeing in the sector lately? I know like we've talked about
Yeah.
funding and all those things. So I'm curious, is there something that's impacting your work specifically or something that you're seeing across the board?
Well, I do think that across the board, there is a general sense that we're losing folks. I mean, jobs are really scarce right now in the sector, not just from funding cuts, but just the general economic downturn
Yeah.
in at least the United States. And I think I mean, I'm based in the Netherlands, and we're still seeing effects of the economic downturn in the US affect the nonprofits and NGOs that work here too. because we are a very global economy. So when there's things happening in the world, it really affects our sector, I think, hardest. And so we don't always have a great way to keep our relationships going well when there's all of this external churn and just
Mhm.
there's a lot going on in the world, and it's really hard to also do this work and keep the same level of passion when everything feels like it's breaking. So it's just,
Fair.
we're really struggling, I think, to find different ways to support each other. And I think that if we can find ways to listen and support each other and create better teams and create more senses of belonging within our individual teams that we have control over, those relationships, it's really important. Our communities are so important right now.
They
And
really are.
yeah. And so I just want to like know that you feel like you're safe and can be relied on to be a safe space at work. We spend all of our time with these people. So it's got to
More
be safe.
times than with our family at some point.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And I think you're right. Like that's a very real tension point that is across the sector. And I think sometimes when you feel like your job is on the chopping block, your psychological safety is even more important,
Yes.
because you might be afraid to speak out or say like something needs to change. And I just think being even more like more aware that everybody has this kind of edge to them, or like
Mm-hmm.
they're constantly concerned about themselves, the work, the impact, the realities of what's like we have a lot of passionate people in this sector,
Mm-hmm.
but we also wear that home with us often. Like that's one
Yeah.
thing, unfortunately, with the nonprofit sector, you don't leave your job at work because you're constantly thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love like connecting passion and burnout, especially because if you like think of imagery for passion, it's like hot, it's fiery, it's really, and like that's going to fizzle out someday. Passion cannot sustain you. So you have to rely on sharing the load and having better communication and really creating expectations and clarity and keeping those things going is what creates sort of a safe and stable environment. And when the external world is so crazy, we need to have our internal environments be very safe. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So even with all those challenge, which is those are big challenges, what's bringing you energy or hope lately?
Definitely community. I
Yeah.
think I love the nonprofit Hive for, I feel like I can tap in whenever I need a quick injection of like, oh, community support. It's all here. Um, and it really feels like everyone knows what we're talking about. Like you just easily can dive in and say, I need support, I need help with this area. And there's always someone who will be there with you to listen, to provide advice. And I think that's necessary. And I am really hopeful because I am spreading myself across two sort of universes right now, the US nonprofit landscape, and I am a US citizen, but I live in the Netherlands and really trying to build community in a new place. So um, I find building community the most important thing. And I've realized throughout my career too, that's sort of what sustained me is
Mhm.
knowing that I've got community somewhere. So it's definitely always the most hopeful part is the people.
I would agree 100%. And this feeds into it, but like, and maybe you don't have more of an answer to this, but what do you find about, or like, why are the spaces for connection and community so important in this work?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like 2020, like, and then I don't know, it feels like yesterday, but it also feels like 100 years ago. And I just think our world has completely changed
Yeah.
since then. And I will say personally, we went super introverted, my family and I. And what we realized that we were lacking totally was a social battery when we came out, and like just really missing having people to talk to and to chat to.
Mhm.
And, I think it really switched something in our brains that we need to live how we need to live in order to support ourselves sustainably and feel safe in our home life and in our community life, but then also how do we build community at the individual level, and like how are we recreating the world that we want it to be? Because if maybe our community fell apart at one point, but how are we rebuilding it to actually work for us now? So yeah, I just feel like it's always that's like the guiding star for me and my family, even at the at a deeper level. It's just we are really trying to find our place in the world, and who isn't?
Who isn't? Is accurate. 2020 feels like a fever dream half the time, like, "Is that really did that really happen?"
Yeah,
But it did like, it was so against our psyches, like, people are
yeah,
intended to be in community and have connection, and, like, that whole time period just felt so unnatural, I think, like, this just doesn't feel like how we
yeah,
should be operating as humans.
exactly, exactly.
Um yeah. Well, Zanny, it's been absolutely lovely chatting with you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing some of the new cool work that you're doing with Joanna. And I'd
yeah,
love to have, if anyone wants to follow along, where they could actually find some of the things that.
yeah. So Joanna and I are equally reachable, but you can find me at doubleloopconsulting.org. So that's my website, but also I'm on LinkedIn and it's just Zanni Miranda. And where else can you find me? Definitely on a Hive chat sometime. It was so great to chat.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zanny.